Hello and welcome to all of you present here. Today I am going to discuss with you the very important chapter of section syllabus in SST, and the name of the chapter is manufacturing industry. There will be various topics which will needed to be discussed, but let us begin this chapter by the inference given in this chapter. Prior to starting of any chapter, a few inference or activities like situation is given in beginning of the chapter to draw our attention that what sort of things which are we going to discuss in this chapter. So here it is also written like that. On the occasion of Diwali, Harish went to a market with his parents. They purchased shoes and clothes for him. His mother purchased utensils, sugar, tea, and diyas. Harish observed that the shops in the market were flooded with items for sale. So it was the time of Deepavali, and Harish had went with his parents in the market, and various things were being purchased by their parents. They purchased utensils for kitchen utilization. They purchased tea, sugar, eatable items, diyas, earthen lamps, which is used to decorate the houses. Harish observed that during Diwali, the markets are flooded with various types of items. The shops are full with various types of items to be sold in the market, and many various people were purchasing them. He wondered how so many items could be made in such a large quantities. Uh, it is a quite a funny thing to discuss here that anybody who visit the market and sees such a large quantities available in the market, the first thing strike in his mind that obviously these things might have been manufactured somewhere in industry, or maybe industry may be large scale, industry may be small scale, or industry may be cottage like here example it is given that diya may be manufactured as a household industry, but utensils may be manufactured in the large scale industry, steel industry, and there are various commodities available in our surrounding. We are living in modern era. This is machine based life, and every moment we utilizing various kinds of items in our daily life which are manufactured in the industry. His father explained all these things that shoes, clothes, sugar, etc. are manufactured by the machines in large industries. Some utensils are manufactured in small industries. Here we just try to notice sugar, cloths are manufactured in large industries. It means industry may be large, where large production takes place. Some utensils are manufactured in small industries. Industries may be somehow small in size in terms of its production, in terms of its investment, and in terms of laborers required to make production. And while here we discussed that there is few large scale industry which produces sugar and cloths. Here we also discussed that few industries are small scale industries which produces utensils, and there is also another type of industry that is called household industry, a small scale household industry or cottage industry, where diyas and agarbattis and these types of things are manufactured. Individual items are manufactured individually. So, do you have some idea about this industry? Actually, industry is not a new word for us, and I have just told you that various kinds of commodities we are using our daily life, starting from mobile to pen and watches and televisions and motorcycles and vehicles. So many things are we are using in our daily life, and they are being manufactured in industries. This is not the things which is out of our sight and out of our mind, but what sort of activity may be called, or what sort of unit, or what sort of the place may be uh, described or determined as an industry. That is the first thing which we have to keep in mind. So the production of goods in large quantities, here it is written that production of goods in large quantities after processing from raw materials to more valuable product is called manufacturing. So the simple definition of manufacturing is that production of goods in large quantities. If the production of goods is made in large quantities, but how it is possible? It is possible by processing the raw materials. The goods production is only possible when Raw materials, which are the primary products, which are directly obtained from the nature. Raw materials may be also from the nature and also from primary industries. It doesn't matter, but the production of goods in large quantities take place after processing of raw material to more valuable products is called manufacturing. So manufacturing generally refers to the production of goods in large quantities by processing of raw materials. Do you know that the paper is manufactured from wood, sugar from sugarcane, iron and steel from iron ore, and aluminium from bauxite? Obviously, many of you might be knowing those things, that the paper which comes daily in our houses, newspaper, or any paper we use, it is made by pulp, which is obtained from the plants and trees, and the iron steel material we use is comes from iron and steel industry. Aluminium we use, aluminium utensils we use, it is obtained from bauxite. So do you also know that some types of clothes are manufactured from yarn, which itself is an industrial product? And we used various types of cloths today. We are living in civilized world, and we adorn our body with the various kinds of cloths, and these cloths are somehow woven in the textile industry, but the main basic item for the manufacturing of fabrics or textile products is thread or yarn, and thread is obtained from the cotton. So the cotton is the primary product, but prior to manufacturing of the cloths, it has to be converted into the thread और यार्न. सो यार्न जो है, रेसा जो है, रेसे से धागा बनता है और धागा से फिर क्लॉथ्स बनते हैं. तो यार्न जो है, धागा मतलब जो रेसा है, धागा है, ये जो है आपको ये भी स्पाइनिंग इंडस्ट्री में तैयार होता है. मतलब डायरेक्ट कॉटन को लेकर हम फैब्रिक्स क्लॉथ्स नहीं बना सकते. कॉटन एक एग्रीकल्चरल प्रोडक्ट्स है. कॉटन को फिर गिनिंग करते हैं, सॉर्ट आउट करते हैं, उसमें से मतलब फिर उसको स्पाइनिंग स्पिंडल से उसको फिर थ्रेड्स बनाते हैं. फिर उस थ्रेड से फिर चाहे वो पावर लूम हो या फिर आपका हैंडलूम हो, हाथ से या मशीन से, फिर उसको ओवन करके उसको हम क्लॉथ्स बनाते हैं. So in industry we use directly somehow the primary products like sugar cane, iron ore, and somehow we also used yarn like products, which is also a industrial product. So manufacturing refers to the large scale production of the goods after processing of raw material to a more valuable products. People employed in the secondary activities manufacture the primary materials into the finished goods. So the people who are engaged in industrial activities, they generally process the primary materials into the finished goods. The workers employed in steel factories, car, breweries, textile industry, all fall into this category. So the manufacturing industry refers to the secondary sector. In secondary sector, people manufacture goods and finished goods by processing of the raw material. Some people are employed in providing services. In this chapter, we will mainly concerned with manufacturing industry, which fall in the secondary sector. So industry are of various kinds: industry, primary industry, secondary industry. So here we will only focus our mind to discuss about the manufacturing industries. The economic strength of the country is measured by the development of manufacturing industry. So after knowing the meaning of industry, now it is time to have the knowledge about the importance of the manufacturing industry. But it is general thing to understand that the strength and the economic development of any country is measured in terms of मैन्युफैक्चरिंग इंडस्ट्री. हाउ इकोनॉमिकली स्ट्रांग ए कंट्री इज, हाउ कोई भी देश कितना वो मतलब मजबूत है आर्थिक रूप से, it depends the number of industries operating there. The large number of industry, the more prosperous and prosperity and economic strength of the country will be present there. So now let us discuss about the importance of manufacturing. The manufacturing sector is considered the backbone of development in general and economic development in particular mainly. So, development is the hallmark of human civilization. Humankind have been making development since its evolution on this earth. But we are living in modern era, and in modern society, the strength of the economic development of the country, the development process, the development criteria, the development stage is totally decided by the uh, manufacturing industry ability in that country. So the manufacturing sector is considered the backbone of development and economic development in particular. So what are these few importance of this manufacturing industry for the economic development of any country or the development of a country? We will have to uh, idea about this one by one. First importance of the manufacturing industry is that manufacturing industry not only help in modernizing agriculture, which forms the backbone of our economy, they also reduce the heavy dependence of people on agricultural income by providing them jobs in secondary and tertiary sector. So as far as India is concerned, and any country in the world, manufacturing industry make the base for the modernization of the agriculture, which in turns make the development of the economy, and it reduces the population dependence on for job in primary sector in on agriculture, and turning them to have a job in providing them job in secondary and tertiary sector. The first important importance of manufacturing industry in terms of its economy, the role of a manufacturing industry in economic development is that the manufacturing industry reduces the dependence of population on agriculture sector and provide them jobs in secondary and tertiary sector. The second importance of this manufacturing industry is that it is the precondition for eradication of unemployment and poverty from our country. Here we are discussing the importance of manufacturing country industry in connection with our own country, India. So in India is the country which is poverty stricken, unemployment is prevailing here. So industrial development is considered to be the precondition. If we are willing to eradicate the unemployment and lessen the poverty level in our country, there is need to make the industrial development. This was the main philosophy behind public sector industries and joint sector venture in India. So after independence, government of India started to establish various types of industries, which in one hand was making development of the country, economic development of the country, and slowly it was also eradicating the poverty and also providing the people jobs, lessening the percentage of unemployment. But still, there is a need to make more industrial development in our country. It was also aimed at bringing down regional disparity by establishing industries in tribal and backward. So after independence, the industrial developments has not taken place uh, in similar manner in all part of the country, in all the states. Few states has are more industrially developed, and few states are have not reached up to the level as in comparison to the other states. So those states are still lagging behind in terms of economic development, and there is need to develop the industries in those tribals and backward areas. Third one is exports of manufactured goods expand trade and commerce and brings in much needed foreign exchange. So the more number of industry will be prevailing in your country, there will be more production, and then you will at each position to even if you have plentiful of goods available in your country, more than your requirement, then what will be result? You will try to export it. So the more you will export the manufactured goods, the more you will have the foreign currency, foreign exchange. And foreign exchange is very much necessary for any country, because international trade is conducted in American dollar, and it is not directly coming to your country. If you sell your manufactured goods in the international market through international trade, you will have the foreign exchange, because foreign exchange needed to purchase many more other commodities or things which are not being produced in India, which is not available in India. Take example of petroleum products. Out of 100%, only 70, around 70% of petroleums, only 25 to 30% petroleum products are produced in India. Rest of the 70% has to be imported from the foreign nation. So how it will be possible for India to purchase from the international market? It will need American dollar, foreign exchange. So for reserves of foreign exchange is also need for the economic strength of any country. And uh, if we plentiful of manufactured goods available in our country, we will export in international market and earn foreign exchange. So we come to know the third importance of the manufacturing industry. And the fourth one, countries that are transferring their raw materials into wide varieties of finished goods of higher value are prosperous. So generally we just think that which types of country should be thought to be prosperous, the life of the people will be prosperous. Although manufacturing is such types of industry where the raw materials are processed and converted into more valuable products in a large quantity. So the country which is converting its available raw material in a large quantity in a valuable products, finished products, definitely that country will be prosperous. So India's prosperity lies in increasing and diversifying its manufacturing industries as quickly as possible. So if India is needed to make development at rapid speed, India is also needed to establish more number of industries of diverse types of industries in different parts of the country. So as a whole, we come to know about four importance of the manufacturing industry. That manufacturing industry not only help in modernizing the agriculture, but also makes less dependence of population on the agriculture, providing them jobs in secondary and tertiary sector. Industrial development is precondition for the eradication of employment and poverty. Exports of manufactured goods helps in earning foreign exchange, and prosperity of countries depends upon the magnitude of or the strength of the country of transferring the raw material into manufactured goods. Agriculture and industry are not exclusive of each other. Although, if any country is making development, we generally see that the percentage of agricultural sector in GDP slowly tends to decrease, and the percentage of industrial products tends to increase. So we say that the country is making development. So, but it doesn't mean that agriculture and industry are exclusive. That the agriculture will be reduced, agricultural activity will be decreasing, and industrial activity will be increasing alone. They are dependent on each other. They go hand by hand. For instance, the agro-based industry in India have given a major boost to agriculture by raising its production. There are various industry. We will try to understand it in different kinds of industry. The agro-based industry production has helped Indian agriculture to become modernized and make production higher. They depend on the latter for the raw materials and sell their products such as irrigation pump, fertilizer, insecticides, pesticides, plastic and PVCides. So agricultural sector in India became developed because many modern machines and modern methodology machines and inputs comes from the manufacturing industry, like irrigation pumps, fertilizers, insecticides, pesticides. Thus, development and competitiveness of manufacturing industry has not only assisted agriculture list in increasing their production, but also made the production process very efficient. So here it was that point to discuss that agriculture and industry are interdependent each other, and their development go hand by hand. In one hand, the agriculture makes development, but the agricultural production increases due to the materials provided by industries, and also there are few industries which is depend upon the agricultural production, like sugar industry and cotton industry. Their raw material comes from agriculture sector. In present day world of globalization, our industry needs to be more efficient and competitive. Self-sufficient alone is not enough. So today we are living in the global world, globalization world. It means we cannot keep our economy closed. We cannot keep our population totally disconnected from the production being made in other developed nations. The production made in developed nations of any electronic items or any other materials should be easily accessible to our own country people, and that is called globalization. Today we are using foreign made clothes, foreign made vehicles, foreign made mobiles. How is it possible? Because all these foreign manufactured goods are reaching to the Indian market, and it is only possible due to the globalization process. Prior to 1991, such types of situation was not um, very easy. Till 1991, Indian economy had not allowed foreign companies to sell their products in Indian market. But after 1991, Indian market were opened for the foreign companies, foreign investment, and that became possible by the globalization process that we will be try to understand in economics. What is meaning of globalization? So it doesn't mean that your industries are self-sufficient. Whatever the population in your country needed, you are making production of that much quantity. That the product's material should be of international quality. It should be cheap. It should be more techno-friendly, more environment friendly, and more easy to use. So only self-sufficiency in production by indigenous industry is not enough. Our industrial production should be at ease in comparison to the industrial production made by foreign companies or developed nations. Only then we will be able to compete in international markets, because we are also needed to export our items. Suppose Indian Maruti cars is being exported to many developing nations. So Indian textile products, fabrics reaches to the UK, USA countries. So if our manufacturing goods reaches to the international markets, it should not only be up to the label that he may compete with the products of other nations, but it should be also mm, good quality, and it should be competed enough to live in the world of competition and globalization. As far as the contribution of industry to national economy is concerned, here we see over the last 2 decades, the share of manufacturing sector has stagnated at 17% of GDP. Out of total of 27% for the industry, which includes 10% for mining, quarrying, and electricity and gas. So it is our main attention to know how much industrial development is being made in India, because we have just studied that the industrial development, establishing of diverse types of industry, more number of industry is needed for the uh, economy, betterment of the economy, and eradication of poverty and employment. So as far as economic data here it is given that in last 2 decades, means last 20 years, the economic strength of the country is calculated by the GDP. It is the sum total of final goods and services produced in all the three sectors in a country. So as far as the secondary sector, manufacturing belongs to the secondary sector. So only 27% share in GDP has been of industrial sector, manufacturing sector, industrial sector, in which manufacturing has only 17%. So in last 20 years, the industrial sector share in GDP is around 27%, uh, out of which 17% of manufacturing and 10% belongs to the mining, quarrying, electricity, and gas. That is also called industry. So 17% portion of the manufacturing industry has been in the GDP in last 20 years. This is much lower in comparison to the some East Asian economies. East Asian economies like um, Korea, Japan, uh, like Singapore, these types of countries, where the manufacturing sector share in GDPs has been 25 to 35%. So if East Asian countries are having 25 to 35% of share in the GDP, but India is still having only 17%. The trend of growth rate in manufacturing over the last decade has been around 7% per annum. So in last decade, last 10 years, there the growth rate of manufacturing has been around 7%. The desired growth rate over the next decade is 12%. So the government of India has fixed that in next 10 years there is need to maintain the growth rate of 12%. Since 2003, manufacturing is once again growing at the rate of 9 to 10% per annum. With appropriate policy intervention by the government and renewed efforts by the industry to improve productivity, economists predict that manufacturing can achieve its target over the next decade. So, development of industry depends on various aspects, and it also includes government policies, that how the government is going to make policies for the development of industries, and what sort of new rules and regulations are chucked out by the governments. So in this way, the government has predicted that appropriate policy intervention and renewed efforts about concerning productivity, economics predict that the manufacturing can achieve its target over next decades. The National Manufacturing Competitiveness Council, NMCC, has been set up with these objectives, that how the growth rate of the industry may be ensured in next decades. So we came to know about that in the Indian economy, the share of percentages of industry has been 27%. Out of 27%, the share of manufacturing industry is only 17% in comparison to the 25 to 35% being maintained by the East Asian nations. And in last decades, the growth rate has been around 7%, but the desired growth rate has been fixed by 12%. And since 2003, it has been 9 to 10% per annum. And government intervention and new efforts by the industry to improve its productivity, the economics predict that the target over next decades may be achieved. And for this purpose, there is National Manufacturing Competitiveness Council has been set up. Now the next topic, which is very important one, and that is the industrial location. What does mean industrial location? We have just talked about what is the meaning of manufacturing. We have just talked about what is the role and the contribution of industry in the economic development and eradication of poverty and unemployment, and what are the importance of industry, and how much the percentage of share of manufacturing industry in the Indian economy in last decades. But we came to know that the number of industries should be increased, diverse types of industries should be increased, and it also should needed to be established in remote and backward areas, because there has not even growth of industries in all states in India. But what are the factors which determine the location of industry? Is it possible that we can establish any industry anywhere? No. Few industries are such a type which needs to be established near raw material availability. Few industries are such a type which needed to be established near market. Few industries are such a type which is needed to be established in periphery of agricultural area, which is agro-based industry. So we will try to know the factors of industrial location. Industrial locations are complex in nature. These are influenced by availability of raw material, labor, capital, power, market, etc. So establishing of industry doesn't depend on only one factor. They are numerous and complex in nature. It is the very complex in nature. It may be raw material, it may be availability of cheap labor, it may be availability of capitals, punji, it may be the power supply, it may be the availability of market. So it is rarely possible to find all these factors available at one place. So it is not prudent to think that all these factors will be available at one place and that will be considered the best place to establish the industry. Somehow we may be having one and two factors available, and somehow we may be lacking one or two factors. But the main focal point of the establishment of industry is the least industrial cost, production cost. Because the main motto of the industry is to earn profit, and earning profit depends upon its cost of production. So it is also taken into consideration. Consequently, manufacturing activity tends to locate at the most appropriate place where all the factors or industrial location are either available or can be arranged at lower cost. So the factors are needed, but It may be that it may be not present there, but somehow it is needed to be make arrangement of those all factors available at one place, but it should at lower cost. After an industrial activity starts, urbanization follows. Here, one thing to note down that industrial setup and urbanization process go hand in hand. Some industrial towns has developed, and some uh, towns has developed due to the establishment of industries. Sometimes industries are located in or near the cities. Thus, industrialization and urbanization go hand in hand. Urbanization is a process in which the uh, house number of uh, dwellers living in the cities and towns increases. The population of towns and cities increases. New colonies develops. New infrastructure develops. So that area and the size of towns slowly increases. That is known as urbanization. New towns evolve only due to setting up of industries. Suppose an industry was established at one place and few population were living there, but in due course of time, 20 and 30 years after, the population of town increased, and then we can say that it was due to the industrialization of that place, industrial establishment of industry at that place. So industrialization and urbanization go in hand. Cities provide markets and also provide services such as banking, insurance, transport, labors, consultants, and financial advice. So cities is the hub of numerous activities. It not only provide the markets for the industry, but it also provides banking facility, insurance facility, transport facility, labor facility, consultants facility, financial advice, etc. Many industries tend to come together to make up use of advantage offered by the urban centers known as agglomeration economies. So in a town, various factors are available there: insurance, transportation, labor, consultancy, financial, market. So various types of industry tends to develop at one place in one city, and that is known as the agglomeration of economies. Take example of Delhi, take example of Pune, take an example of Bengaluru. There is not only one type of industry, various types of industries are established there. So that is called the agglomeration economies. Gradually, a large industrial agglomeration takes place. In the what was the situation prior to independence? There was the British rule, and most manufacturing units were located in places from point of view of overseas trade, such as Mumbai, Kolkata, Chennai. When there was the rule of Britishers, the industries were established with the point of view that the manufactured goods is needed to be exported to the foreign nation, and it is needed to be uh, taken away from India to other nations. So the port city where the port was available, Mumbai, Kolkata, Chennai, that was the initial stage of industrial development in India. The port city was chosen to be establishment of industry. Consequently, in due course of time, these emerged certain pockets of industries, developed urban centers surrounded by huge agriculture, rural hinterland. But slowly, the decentralization of industry started to take place in in internal part of the country. Various types of industry started to be established, and after independence, government of India took initiative regarding this matter. Here it is given one chart: industry and market linkage. Industry needs inputs like raw materials or component parts, and factors of production needed like land is needed for industry, labor is needed, skilled and unskilled labor is needed, capital investment is needed, entrepreneurship means a person who is going to establish the industry, infrastructure like water facility, like electricity facility, like road facility, that is called infrastructure. All these are inputs. And transportation inputs are needed to be transported to the factory sites, and after the production it is still needed to be transported to the market. So industries should be linked with the market. The key to decision of the factory location is the least cost. So if somebody asks you what is the key factor for the localization of the industry, we have discussed there are various factors: land, labor, capital, market, raw materials, and according to the nature of industry, these factors may be the guiding factor, the focal factor for the establishment of industry, but the key factor is the least production cost. It should not be such a situation that you wishes to establish industry anywhere and you can establish there, but the production cost increases, so the product materials will not be sold in the market and the industry will collapse because the produced item is needed to be the sold in the market. So least cost production cost, it is the key factor. Government policies and specialized labor also influence the localization of the industry. Somehow the government policies, labor law, tax law also. Now you may see many medicine industries are established in Uttarakhand. Why? Because there is low tax. So the tax policy, the labor policy also determine the establishment of industry. Ideal location of industry, here is a flow chart. You can see cost of production at site, it is to be taken into consideration. Cost of obtaining raw material at sites, it means from where the raw material is needed to be bring to the factory, and cost of distribution of products. So raw material bringing cost, goods produced to the market, needed to be sent to the market, that cost it is taken into consideration. Then the decision of factory location is taken at lastly. Now the classification of industry. List the various manufacturing industry used in your daily life. So the industry may be classified on the various basis, and on the basis of source of raw material used, it may be agro-based industry and mineral-based industry. The source of raw material used industry will determine it, whether it is maybe agro-based like cotton industry, woolen industry, jute industry, silk industry, textile, rubber, and sugar, and tea and coffee, edible oil. All these are agro-based industries. Mineral-based industries is iron and steel industry, cement industry, aluminum industry, machine industry, tools, petrochemicals. According to their main role, it means what types of production is being made in that industry. Accordingly, it may be basic or key industry or consumer industry. Basic or key industries are those industries which supply the products as raw material to manufacture the other goods. It means few industries are such a type which needs raw material not directly from primary sector but from uh, primary industries. So basic or key industries are those industry which supplies raw material to the manufacture of other goods like iron and steel. Iron and steel industry is a basic industry because various other industry will need machines. So how the machines can be manufactured? If iron and steel industry will be not in existence in advance in any country, so how the machines may be manufactured for other like sugar industry and cotton textile industry, there is need of machines. From where did all these machines will come from? If there will be establishment of iron and steel industry, and copper is smelting, aluminium is smelting, all these are basic industry because after aluminium smelting industry produces aluminum, then this aluminum may be utilized in making utensils or aeroplanes or other items or for electricity wire. So electric wire making industry, pressure cooker making industry will need aluminum, but aluminum is not directly available in the environment. There is need for a aluminum smelting industry. So if aluminum smelting industry will produce aluminum, then it will be used as a raw material for cooker industry, pressure cooker industry, and uh, fire making industry. So these are basic industry: aluminum smelting, copper smelting, iron and steel industry. Consumer industries that produces goods for direct use by the consumer, like sugar, toothpaste, paper, sewing machines, fans. So the consumer industries are those industries which products are directly reaching to the consumer hands and they are directly using. But in basic industry, the basic industry products directly don't go in the hand of consumers. They first go to the other industries and then it is converted into the usable items. So according to the product made in the industry will determine whether it is a basic industry or a consumer industry. On the basis of capital investment, We have just discussed in the beginning of the chapter that there is three types of industry: large scale industry, where huge investment of capital, huge quantities of labors work there, huge numbers of labor work there, and production is also made in large scale, like cotton industry, it is a large scale industry. Like sugar industry, it is a large scale industry. So large scale industry, small scale industry, and cottage industry, there are three types of industry according to this investment, uh, in terms of capital, the production, and the labor employed there. And here it is one example of given of a small scale industry is defined with reference to the maximum investment allowed on the asset of a unit. This limit has changed over the period of times. So government of India decides that how much capital investment is needed for the large scale industry. A minimum limit of capital investment has been fixed by the government of India to categorize the industry as a large scale, small scale, and cottage. So for a small scale unit, it had been fixed as rupees 1 crore, but over the period of time it changes on the basis of ownership, मालिकाना हक के आधार पर. There are public sector, government owned industry, public sector industry like FAIL, SAIL, Steel Authority of India, Bharat Heavy Electric Limited, FAIL. There are various iron and steel industry, aluminum industry, which is government industry, public sector industry, fertilizer industry, many, NALCO, BALCO, National Aluminum Corporation. Private sector industries are owned and regulated by the individuals or group of people like TISCO, Tata Iron and Steel Company, Bajaj Auto Limited, Mahindra, Dabur Industry. There are various types of numerous kinds of private industry. India is a mixed economy. Here, private industry and government industry, both types of industries are existing. Joint sector, it means it is jointly run and owned by the individual as well as government, like Oil India. The government industries, some shares of these industries are sold in the market, and part of and portion of the assets are owned by the private people, and that is known as Oil India Limited Company. Cooperative sector industries are owned and operated by producer or supplier of raw materials, worker, both. Cooperative is such types of industry where the profit is not going to be taken by a single individual. It jointly, it is commonly regulated by the producer or the supplier of raw material or worker as a whole, and whatever the profit is earned, it is distributed among equally them. They pool in the resources and share the profit or losses proportionately. So such example are sugar industry in Maharashtra and coir industry in Kerala. Sudha dairy is a cooperative industry. Sudha uh, milk you use daily, it is a cooperative. So in South India, the sugar industry are in cooperative. So on the basis of ownership, there is public sector, private sector, joint venture, and cooperatives based on bulk and weight of the raw material. How much bulky and weight of raw material is being used in that industry? That is called heavy industry, like iron and steel, and light industry using light raw materials and produce light goods, such as electrical goods industry. So in this way, we come to know about the different types of industry. Now we will discuss about different kinds of industry one by one in the next topic, in next video lesson. Okay.